The Galactic Council said humanity was too primitive to build weapons that could challenge the cosmos. They said our biology was too slow, our technology too crude, our science too limited. They told us to wait 300 years. We gave them 18 months and 10 reasons to regret underestimating the human race. The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, a monument to 10,000 years of cosmic civilization. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated atmospheric pods, each environment carefully calibrated for their unique biology. At the center podium stood Ambassador Chen Wei, the first human to address this august body. The Vorash ambassador, a creature of crystalline spires and prismatic light, spoke with the weight of millennia. Ambassador Chen, your species has petitioned for defensive technology shares. The Council has reviewed your request. A pause, deliberate and cutting. The answer is no. Chen's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. May I ask why? Earth faces the same threats as any member world. The Devourers don't discriminate by species. It is not a matter of discrimination, replied the Thek's representative, its tentacles undulating through methane mist. It is a matter of capacity. Humanity is young. You've been in space for less than 2 centuries. The weapons you request, plasma destabilizers, quantum disruptors, singularity cannons, these took our civilizations thousands of years to develop. The K'thran ambassador, resembling an enormous mantis wreathed in neural interfaces, chittered in agreement. Your species still uses chemical propulsion for 30% of your fleet. You wage wars over territorial disputes. You cannot even agree on a unified planetary government. How can we trust you with weapons that could crack worlds? Chen felt the weight of Earth's 4 billion souls pressing on her shoulders. We've proven ourselves. Humanity fought alongside the Galactic Defense Force in the Battle of Kepler 442. We held the line when... You held the line by throwing bodies at the enemy, interrupted the Vorash coldly. Admirable courage, certainly. But courage without sophistication is suicide. Your species lost 47,000 soldiers in that battle. The Eldari lost 3 and they accounted for twice your combat effectiveness. Because they had better weapons, Chen shot back. Because they had better everything, the K'thran corrected. Training, tactics, technology. Ambassador, we've seen this pattern before. Young species eager to prove themselves, reaching for power they cannot control. The Jakara nearly destroyed themselves when they prematurely developed antimatter weapons. The Suleth rendered their homeworld uninhabitable with experimental gravity wells. The Council exists to prevent such catastrophes. Ambassador Chen straightened, her eyes blazing with controlled fury. So we're supposed to defend ourselves with inferior technology, wait another 1,000 years while the Devourers advance, hope that more established species will always arrive in time to save us? You misunderstand, the Vorash said, its crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into 1,000 rainbow shards. We are not saying you must wait. We are saying you cannot have what you seek. The physics won't allow it, Chen frowned. Physics? Let me be plain, Ambassador. The Vorash leaned forward, and despite the alien nature of its form, Chen sensed condescension. The reason humanity cannot wield our weapons is not merely political. It's mathematical. Your neurology processes tactical information 17% slower than the galactic average. Your reaction times, even enhanced, lag behind. Your industrial base lacks the precision manufacturing required for quantum components. Your energy generation cannot sustain the power requirements. These aren't insults, Ambassador. They're facts. The chamber fell silent. Even the low hum of atmospheric processors seemed to fade. We've analyzed human warfare extensively, continued the K'thran. Your species excels at endurance, at crude innovation under pressure, at what you call improvisation. These are survival traits, not sophisticated military capabilities. You create adequate solutions to immediate problems, but weapons of true galactic warfare require precision, planning and processing power that humanity simply lacks. Chen's hands clenched behind her back. And if we develop our own weapons? With what? The Thex's laugh was a burbling sound through its translator. Ambassador, you must understand scale. The plasma destabilizer you requested took the Vorash civilization 8,000 years to develop. It requires materials that don't exist in your solar system. Manufacturing tolerances your best facilities cannot achieve. And power cores your scientists don't yet understand. You might develop something in, 5 or 6,000 years. If you survive that long, then tell us what we need, Chen insisted. Share the knowledge. We'll do the work. The Galactic Compact forbids technology transfer beyond a species development threshold. The Vorash stated, its voice final. You are a Category 3 civilization, Ambassador. The weapons you request are Category 7 technology. The gap is insurmountable. 3 of your centuries, added the Cathran. That's how long the Eldari calculus predicts until humanity reaches the development threshold for advanced weapons. 300 years. This conversation is premature by 30 decades. Ambassador Chen stood in silence, feeling the weight of cosmic bureaucracy crushing humanity's hopes. Around the chamber, representatives from older species watched with expressions ranging from pity to indifference. To them, humanity was a child demanding to play with fusion cores. Is there nothing we can do? Chen asked quietly. Survive, the Vorash said, not unkindly. Prove your species has longevity. Build your industrial base. Develop your science. In 3 centuries, petition us again, if humanity still exists. And in the meantime, you have your kinetic weapons, your missiles, your crude lasers. They suffice for minor threats. For major threats, the defense force will respond eventually. Eventually. Chen knew what that word meant. It meant Earth would be 14th or 15th on the priority list. It meant human colonies would be acceptable losses. It meant humanity would bleed and die waiting for help that might arrive too late. Thank you for your time, honored representatives, Chen said, her voice carefully neutral. She bowed, following protocol, and turned to leave. Ambassador, the Vorash called after her, please don't take this as cruelty. The universe has rules. Some barriers cannot be overcome through will alone. Chen paused at the chamber's threshold, looking back at the assembled might of galactic civilization. My species has a saying, never tell us what's impossible. We're not smart enough to know we should quit. She didn't wait for a response. Scene. Aboard the human transport ship, Indomitable. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks through the quantum fold network, and Ambassador Chen spent most of it staring at stellar charts in her quarters. Her aide, Lieutenant James Park, tried to lift her spirits on day 7. Ma'am, it's not as bad as it sounds. We've got some good weapons. The railguns performed well at Kepler 442, and the missile frigates. Jim, they called us primitive. Chen didn't look up from her tablet. Worse, they were right. I read the combat analysis. Do you know how many shots our railguns needed to land for every confirmed kill? 73. The Vorash plasma destroyers? 1.2. We expended our entire ammunition reserve while they were still charging their second volley. Park leaned against the bulkhead. So what do we do? What we always do. Figure it out ourselves. Chen finally met his eyes. Get me a secure channel to DARPA, NATO Defense Research, the Chinese Strategic Weapons Division, and the Russian Aerospace Research Institute. Then loop in the private sector Yamamoto Industries, Lockheed Samsung, the European Defense Consortium. That's everyone. Yes, because I'm about to tell Earth's greatest scientific minds that the galaxy thinks we're too stupid to build proper weapons. A grim smile crossed Chen's face, and I'm going to ask them to prove the galaxy wrong. Scene. United Nations Security Council, New York. The Secretary General, Maria Okonkwo, listened to Chen's report in heavy silence. Around the table, the permanent members of the Security Council wore matching expressions of frustration. 300 years? The Chinese premier repeated slowly. They expect us to wait 300 years? While the devourers expand, added the Russian president. While pirate syndicates raid our outer colonies. While we remain second-class members of galactic society. They didn't say second class, Chen corrected carefully. They said we lacked the neurological processing, industrial precision, and scientific foundation to use their weapons effectively. They said even if we had the weapons, we'd be unable to employ them properly. That's worse. The British Prime Minister exploded. They're not just refusing to help. They're saying we're biologically incapable. Secretary General Okonkwo raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Chen, you've read the technical analyses. Are they correct? Chen took a deep breath. Partially. Our reaction times are slower than most spacefaring species by human standards. We're fast. But compared to something like the Cathran with their distributed neural processing, we lag. Our manufacturing tolerances are cruder. We lack certain rare elements that other species have in abundance. We're working with less than most, but, Okonkwo prompted, hearing the unspoken word, but humanity has never let less than stop us before. We built civilizations without claws or armor. We conquered our skies without wings. We split the atom without understanding quantum mechanics. We've always been the species that shouldn't have succeeded and did anyway, out of pure stubborn refusal to quit. The American president leaned forward. What are you proposing? The galaxy has spent millennia perfecting one approach to weapons development, the approach that works for them. High precision, high energy, high sophistication weapons that require advanced materials and processing power we don't have. Chen pulled up a holographic display. I'm proposing we don't follow their path. I'm proposing we build weapons that work for us, weapons that embrace our limitations instead of fighting them, weapons that use human advantage as creativity, adaptability, willingness to try insane ideas instead of mimicking alien strengths we don't possess. Can it be done? The Chinese premier asked. I don't know, Chen admitted, but I know we have to try, because the alternative is waiting 3 centuries for permission to defend ourselves properly. The Security Council exchanged glances. Finally, Secretary General Okonkwo nodded. Draft the initiative. Full discretionary funding. Whatever resources our scientists need. Codename, she thought for a moment. Project Defiance. Approved, the American president said immediately. The others voiced their agreement in turn. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Then I'd better get to work, because we're about to attempt what the galaxy says is impossible. Good, Okonkwo said. Humanity has always specialized in the impossible. Let's remind the universe why they should never underestimate us. Scene, DARPA Underground Research Facility, Nevada Desert, 6 months later. Dr. Sarah Volkova looked exhausted. Her gray-streaked hair was tied back haphazardly, and her lab coat bore coffee stains from at least 3 different days. But her eyes blazed with excitement as she addressed the assembled Project Defiance team. All right, people, let's review where we stand. 6 months ago, the galaxy told us we couldn't build weapons that work. Today, I'm going to show you why they were wrong. She pulled up a holographic display showing a sleek, brutal-looking device. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Weapon 1, the kinetic hammer. A young engineer, Dr. Kenji Tanaka, raised his hand. Dr. Volkova, that looks like a railgun. We already have railguns. We have railguns that fire solid slugs at a fraction of light speed, yes. They're effective but inefficient, the galaxy was right about that. 73 shots per kill, like Ambassador Chen said. Volkova grinned. But what if we made them better? Not by copying alien plasma weapons, but by making them more human. She zoomed in on the projectile design. The galaxy builds high-energy weapons because they have the power generation to sustain them. We don't. So instead of trying to match their energy output, we went for payload innovation. Each kinetic hammer round is a smart projectile. It has its own guidance system, its own sensors, and its own detonation protocol. It adjusts trajectory mid-flight. It can identify optimal impact points, and when it hits, the hologram showed a simulation. The projectile struck a Devourer ship's hull, and instead of simply punching through, it burrowed a microsecond before detonating internally. Penetration followed by internal detonation, Volkova continued. The round uses shaped charges to maximize damage after breaching the hull. In simulations, we've reduced shots per kill to 12. Not as good as Vorash plasma, but better than what we had by 6 times. What's the catch? Asked Colonel Martinez from NATO Defense. Power consumption is still significant and the smart rounds are expensive. But they use materials we have and manufacturing processes we've mastered. This is achievable with current human technology. We can start production within a year. Ambassador Chen, watching via holographic link from the UN, nodded approvingly. 1 down. What else? Dr. Yuki Nakamura from Yamamoto Industries stood next. She was young, barely 30, but her dissertation on exotic matter had made her the youngest Nobel laureate in physics. Weapon 2, ghost mines. The galaxy uses energy shields extensively, right? Their ships, their stations, everything. Energy shields are amazing if you're trying to stop energy weapons. But energy shields have a problem. They don't stop matter moving below certain velocity thresholds, Chen finished, understanding dawning. Exactly. The shields are designed to stop high-velocity kinetic rounds and energy beams. They assume anyone attacking will use overwhelming force. But what if we didn't? Nakamura pulled up schematics. Ghost mines are small, about the size of a baseball. They're coated in stealth materials, have minimal energy signatures, and they drift. The propulsion is ion-based, barely registering on sensors. They move slowly, deliberately, slow enough to pass through most energy shields without triggering them. And once they're through, they attach to the hull and they wait. Could be minutes, could be hours. Then they detonate shaped antimatter charges, small ones. Nothing crazy, but enough to breach hulls or cripple systems. Or they can network together, sharing targeting data. A swarm of 50 ghost mines can map an entire enemy ship's weak points and strike simultaneously. Colonel Martinez whistled low. That's devious. That's human, Nakamura corrected with a smile. The galaxy fights with honor and overwhelming force. We fight to win. The presentations continued through the day. Each weapon represented a uniquely human approach to warfare. Weapon 3. The swarm torpedo system developed by the European Defense Consortium. These were thousands of tiny, independently targeting missiles that overwhelmed enemy point defense systems through sheer numbers. Each missile cost a fraction of conventional torpedoes, but deployed in clouds of 10,000, they were unstoppable. Weapon 4. Fractal beam emitters. Russian scientists had cracked a problem others ignored. Instead of building more powerful lasers, they built lasers that split and recombined unpredictably. The beams would fragment into dozens of smaller beams, strike from multiple angles, then coalesce at the target. Enemy shields couldn't adapt to the constantly changing threat vectors. Weapon 5. Gravity snares. The Chinese had developed miniaturized gravity generators that created localized distortion fields. They didn't generate enough force to crush ships that would require galactic-level energy, but they created drag, slowing enemy vessels, disrupting their maneuverability, and making them sitting ducks for conventional weapons. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, Dr. Volkova brought the meeting to a close. We have 5 functional weapon systems, each one built within our technological capabilities, each one using human innovation to compensate for our limitations. But the Council said no gun can break their military supremacy. They said we couldn't compete. She looked around the room. I think we're proving them wrong. But we're not done. We have 5 weapons. The project calls for 10. Ambassador Chen's hologram flickered. Then I suggest we keep working. Because in 6 months I'm returning to the Galactic Council, and I want to show them that humanity doesn't wait for permission to survive. Scene: International Space Station 2, Earth orbit, 3 months later. The message came at Oro 400 ship time. Dr. Carlos Mendez, the ISS-2's chief of exotic research, sent a one-line communique to every member of Project Defiance. Get up here now. By 0800, representatives from every major research facility had assembled in the station's primary lab. What they saw made them collectively gasp. Floating in a magnetic containment field was a small sphere, barely 10 centimeters across. It glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to shift and pulse like a living thing. The air around it shimmered with barely contained energy. Is that? Dr. Volkova started. Stable exotic matter, Mendez confirmed, his voice shaking with excitement. We did it. We actually did it. The room erupted in questions, but Mendez raised his hands for silence. Let me explain. The galaxy uses exotic matter in almost all their advanced weapons, quantum disruptors, singularity cannons, dark matter lances. They can do this because species like the Vorash mine it from naturally occurring cosmic phenomena. Humanity doesn't have access to those resources. We tried to synthesize it for decades and failed. But you succeeded, Ambassador Chen said via link. Not by following their methods. We tried replicating Vorash synthesis techniques too energy intensive. We tried Catherine quantum stabilization. Our computers aren't fast enough. We tried everything the galaxy had already perfected. And failed every time. Mendez grinned like a madman. Then Dr. Wei had an insane idea. Dr. Angela Wei, a physicist from Singapore, stepped forward. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I asked myself, why does exotic matter need to be stable for long periods? The galaxy stabilizes it because their weapons fire in controlled bursts with sustained durations. But human warfare is different. We favor rapid-fire, quick deployment systems. What if we created exotic matter that only needed to remain stable for milliseconds? That's brilliant, Nakamura breathed. Lower stability requirements, lower energy needs. Exactly. We create it on demand, use it immediately, and don't worry about long-term containment. It's unstable and dangerous, but only for the enemy. Wei pulled up her data. This sphere you're looking at? It cost 1/10 the energy of standard exotic matter synthesis. It'll remain stable for about 7 seconds before degrading. But 7 seconds is enough. Enough for what? Colonel Martinez asked. Mendez pulled up weapon schematics. Weapon 6, the Voidcaster. It's a cannon that generates unstable exotic matter, encases it in a magnetic bottle, and fires it at near light speed. When the exotic matter degrades, it releases energy, a lot of energy. The explosion is equivalent to a small antimatter warhead, and because we're generating it on demand, we can fire continuously as long as we have power. How long until we can produce combat-ready versions? 6 months for prototypes. A year for mass production. Mendez looked around the room. But there's more. This breakthrough doesn't just give us one weapon. It gives us 3. He pulled up additional schematics. Weapon 7, entropy missiles. We pack unstable exotic matter into missile warheads. They're one-shot weapons, but they hit harder than anything humanity has ever fielded. And Weapon 8, dark matter scatter bombs. These create clouds of exotic particles that disrupt enemy sensors and shields. It's like deploying a smokescreen, but one that interferes with everything from radar to quantum scanners. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 3 new weapons, all based on a single breakthrough, a breakthrough achieved by abandoning alien methodologies and embracing human innovation. Ambassador Chen's voice cut through the quiet. We have 8 weapons. We need 2 more. Already working on it, Dr. Volkova said. And I think you're going to like what we've been developing. Scene. DARPA Nevada facility, 2 weeks later. The test range stretched across 50 kilometers of desert, cleared of all life and monitored by enough sensors to map atomic movement. At one end sat a captured Devourer corvette, a gift from the last battle, heavily damaged but with its alien armor still intact. Dr. Volkova stood at the observation bunker's window. Weapon 9 represents a return to basics. Chemical weapons, the team looked skeptical. Chemical weapons? Tanaka said. Doctor, the galaxy has armor that can withstand plasma. Chemical weapons seem primitive, ineffective? That's what they'll think too. Volkova smiled darkly. The galaxy has developed armor and shields to protect against energy and kinetic weapons. They've evolved protections against radiation, electromagnetic pulses, thermal extremes. But chemical warfare? That's something most species abandoned millennia ago as too crude, too inelegant. They have no defenses because they never expected anyone to use it. She gestured to the test platform. A sleek missile sat on its launcher, innocent-looking except for the biohazard warnings covering its surface. This is the corrosive Fang. The warhead contains a synthesized chemical compound, think of it as superacid on steroids. When it detonates, it sprays across enemy hulls and begins breaking down molecular bonds. It doesn't matter how advanced your armor is if it's literally dissolving. The compound is self-replicating at the molecular level for about 30 seconds before breaking down. In that time, it can eat through 6 meters of standard military-grade armor plating. That's horrifying, someone muttered. That's effective, Volkova corrected. The galaxy fights clean, sophisticated wars. We're willing to fight dirty if it means survival. Weapon 9 gives us a tool they won't expect and can't easily counter. She pressed the firing button. The missile streaked across the desert, striking the Devourer corvette's flank. A spray of blue-green liquid splashed across the hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armor began to smoke, then hiss, then bubble like boiling water. Within seconds, the compound had eaten through the outer hull. By the time the reaction ended, there was a hole 6 meters deep punched through the corvette's side. Jesus Christ, Colonel Martinez whispered. 1 weapon left, Ambassador Chen said. What's Weapon 10? Dr. Nakamura stood, and for the first time since the project began, she looked uncertain. Weapon 10 is different. It's not really a weapon at all. It's a doctrine. She pulled up a display showing Earth's defensive network. Everything we've developed, the kinetic hammers, ghost mines, swarm torpedoes, all of it. These are excellent weapons. But the galaxy was right about one thing. We can't match their raw power. A single Vorash dreadnought generates more energy than our entire home fleet. One-on-one in a fair fight, they win every time. So we don't fight fair, Chen said, understanding. Exactly. Weapon 10 is the Distributed Combat Network, DCN for short. It's an AI-coordinated tactical system that links every human weapon, ship, and platform into a single adaptive warfighting entity. Here's how it works. Instead of ships fighting independently, the DCN treats them as nodes in a larger network. Every sensor, every weapon, every piece of data is shared instantaneously. The AI coordinates firing solutions, distributes targets, and optimizes engagement patterns faster than any individual captain could. Nakamura ran a simulation. It showed a human fleet of 50 ships facing off against a single Vorash dreadnought. In traditional combat, we'd coordinate through voice communication and tactical displays. Take seconds to relay information, seconds to make decisions. The Vorash captain, with their enhanced cognition, processes faster than us. They win. The simulation played out. The human fleet was systematically destroyed. But with the DCN, the simulation reset. This time the human ships moved with uncanny precision. They shared targeting data, adjusted positions instantaneously, and fired in coordinated volleys that overwhelmed the dreadnought's shields through precise focus. The alien ship fell in less than 2 minutes. The DCN makes our entire fleet think and react as one entity. It compensates for our slower individual reaction times by coordinating us perfectly. No wasted shots, no overlap, no confusion. It turns 50 ships into one super ship with 50 separate weapons platforms. And the AI? Chen asked carefully. We've always been cautious about autonomous weapons. The AI is strictly tactical, not strategic. It can't declare war or choose targets. Humans retain that authority. But once we commit to combat, the DCN handles the micro-decisions too fast for human cognition. It's not about removing humans from the loop, it's about augmenting us so we can fight on equal terms with species that naturally process information faster than we do. Colonel Martinez nodded slowly. It's brilliant. We're using our technology to patch our biological limitations. We're also using our greatest strength, Nakamura added. Cooperation. Humans are social creatures. We work together better than most species. The DCN takes that instinct and amplifies it to military effectiveness. The galaxy fights with individual excellence. We fight as one. Ambassador Chen stood looking at the assembled weapons data. 10 systems, each one designed around human strengths and compensating for human weaknesses, each one achievable with current or near-future technology, each one deadly in the right circumstances. How long until full deployment? She asked. The production timeline varies, Volkova replied. Kinetic hammers and swarm torpedoes can begin mass production immediately. Ghost mines and gravity snares within 6 months. The exotic matter weapons need another year. The corrosive fang requires specialized manufacturing, 18 months. The DCN, she glanced at Nakamura. The DCN is mostly software. The AI already exists. We've been refining it for months. We need to install the hardware integration systems across the fleet, which takes time, but theoretically, we could begin limited deployment within 3 months and full fleet integration within a year. Chen nodded. Then I suggest we accelerate where possible. Because I'm not waiting another year to show the Galactic Council what humanity can accomplish. You're really going back? Martinez asked. I'm going back to prove a point. They said no gun can break their supremacy. They said humanity lacks the capability to field competitive weapons. Chen's eyes hardened. They were wrong. And it's time they learned that humanity doesn't ask for permission to defend itself. We make our own way. Scene: Galactic Defense Force Testing Range. Kepler System. 18 months later. The Galactic Council didn't ignore Ambassador Chen's second petition, but they certainly didn't take it seriously. When she requested a weapons demonstration, the Vorash ambassador had laughed a crystalline tinkling sound like breaking glass. You wish to show us what humanity has developed? Very well. We could all use entertainment. Now standing on the observation deck of the GDF testing station, the assembled representatives looked considerably less amused. Before them, in the empty space of the Kepler system, floated a series of targets. Decommissioned ships from various species, armor plates rated for military use, and shield generators configured to galactic standard specifications. Ambassador Chen stood at the podium, flanked by Admiral James Cortez, commander of Earth's First Fleet, and Dr. Volkova, representing the scientific teams. Honored representatives, Chen began. 18 months ago, you informed humanity that we lacked the capability to develop advanced weapons. You stated that our neurology, our industrial base, and our scientific foundation were insufficient. You recommended we wait 300 years. The Cathron representative shifted uncomfortably. The Vorash maintained its crystalline composure. Humanity has a different timeline. Today we will demonstrate 10 weapon systems, each developed from scratch by human scientists and engineers using human technology and human innovation. These are not copies of your weapons. They are uniquely ours. Chen gestured to the viewing screens. Admiral Cortez, whenever you're ready. The Admiral touched his communicator. Fleet, you are authorized to commence demonstration. Let's show them what humanity can do. Test 1, kinetic hammers. The frigate EDF Columbia moved into position. Its railguns, upgraded with the kinetic hammer smart projectile system, swiveled toward a decommissioned Thex cruiser. The massive alien ship, even dead and unpowered, represented a formidable target with its thick organic armor. The Columbia fired. The railguns released 6 rounds in rapid succession. To the observer's enhanced vision, the projectiles adjusted mid-flight, micro-corrections bringing them to optimal impact points. The rounds struck and burrowed. Half a second later, the internal detonations lit up the cruiser's interior. When the light faded, 6 perfect holes had been punched through the ship, each one breaching critical internal compartments. 12 shots to disable, Chen narrated, down from our previous 73. Next, Test 2, Ghost Mines. The display shifted to a Cathron destroyer, powered and with shields active. It sat there, seemingly invulnerable behind layers of energy protection. Then Admiral Cortez gave a command. 50 small objects drifted into view, moving slowly, almost lazily. The destroyer's sensors didn't register them as threats. They were too small, too slow, too low energy. The objects drifted through the energy shields like ghosts passing through walls. Then they attached to the hull and detonated. 50 simultaneous explosions ripped across the destroyer's surface. Armor buckled, systems failed, and the shield generators, unable to protect against threats already inside their perimeter, collapsed. The Cathron representative made a strangled, chittering sound. Those bypassed the shields entirely. Yes, Chen said simply. Next, tests 3 through 5. Swarm torpedoes, fractal beams, gravity snares. The demonstrations continued. The swarm torpedo system unleashed 10,000 micro-missiles that overwhelmed a Vorash frigate's point defense through sheer numbers. The fractal beam emitters showed their unpredictable splitting patterns, striking a target from 17 different angles simultaneously. The gravity snares slowed an attacking drone swarm to a crawl, turning them into target practice for conventional weapons. Each test showed a different approach, a different innovation. The galactic representatives watched in growing silence. Tests 6 through 8. Exotic matter weapons. Then came the weapons that should have been impossible. The Voidcaster fired, and a projectile of unstable exotic matter crossed the distance to its target in a flash. When the containment failed, the explosion was visible from the observation deck, a bloom of white-hot energy that vaporized a Devourer corvette in an instant. That was exotic matter, the Vorash said slowly. But your species cannot synthesize exotic matter. You lack the energy generation, the stabilization technology. We learned to make unstable exotic matter, Dr. Volkova interrupted. We don't need it to last long. We just need it to reach the target. Different approach, same result. The entropy missiles and dark matter scatter bombs followed. The missiles hit with devastating force, while the scatter bombs created interference fields that blinded sensors across a wide area. Test 9, Corrosive Fang. The chemical weapon demonstration was brief and brutal. The missile struck an armored target rated to withstand direct plasma hits. The acid spray began its work, and the assembled representatives watched in horrified fascination as 6 meters of military-grade armor simply dissolved. That's barbaric, the Eldari representative whispered. That's effective, Admiral Cortez replied without emotion. Next, Test 10. Distributed Combat Network. For the final demonstration, the human fleet assembled in formation. 30 ships, frigates, destroyers, and cruisers faced off against a GDF-provided automated dreadnought, configured to fight with galactic standard tactics. This will be the most telling test, the Vorash said. Your ships, even with improved weapons, still suffer from your species' slow reaction times and limited processing. The dreadnought will simply... The human fleet moved. They moved as one entity, perfectly synchronized. The DCN coordinated their every action, evasive maneuvers, targeting solutions, firing patterns, all optimized and executed faster than any individual human captain could manage. The fleet flowed like a school of fish, each ship in perfect position, each weapon firing at precisely the right moment to overwhelm the dreadnought's defenses. The dreadnought never stood a chance. Its AI, sophisticated though it was, fought against 30 separate opponents who shared one tactical mind. Every weakness it exposed was immediately exploited. Every defense it raised was instantly bypassed. In less than 3 minutes, the dreadnought was a floating wreck. The observation deck was silent. Finally, the Vorash ambassador spoke, its crystalline voice uncharacteristically quiet. "You've compensated for your neurological limitations." "We didn't compensate," Chen corrected. "We adapted. We built weapons that work for us, not imitations of weapons that work for you. Every system you've seen today was developed within our technological capabilities, using our resources, designed around our strengths." The Cathran's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. This should not have been possible in 18 months. The development cycle alone should have taken decades according to galactic standards, Dr. Volkova finished. But humanity has something most species lose after millennia of civilization: desperation. We were told we couldn't defend ourselves. That's a powerful motivator. Admiral Cortez stepped forward. "These weapons are not theoretical. They're not prototypes. They're in production. Right now, 300 human ships are being retrofitted with these systems. Within 6 months, our entire defense fleet will be combat-ready with all 10 weapons platforms." "This changes nothing," the Vorash said, but its tone lacked conviction. "You've developed adequate weapons, certainly, but the greater powers of the galaxy still outgun us?" "Absolutely," Chen agreed. "A Vorash battle fleet could destroy Earth's defense force in open combat. We're not delusional. But that was never the point." She advanced on the podium, her voice carrying steel. "The point is that you told us we couldn't. You said the physics wouldn't allow it, that our biology limited us, that we should wait 3 centuries for permission. You were wrong." She pulled up a holographic display showing human colony worlds, dozens of them, scattered across frontier space. Every human colony now has the means to defend itself. "We're not the galaxy's most powerful military, but we're no longer helpless. And we did it ourselves in a fraction of the time you said was possible, using methods you never considered because you were too focused on your own approaches." The Secretary of the Galactic Council, an ancient Eldari whose species had been spacefaring for 15,000 years, finally spoke. Its voice was like wind through crystalline chimes. "Ambassador Chen, the Council must convene to discuss this development. You've demonstrated remarkable innovation. However, there are protocols. Protocols for what? Approving weapons we've already built? Granting permission we never needed?" Chen's voice softened slightly. "Honored Secretary, we're not here for approval. We're here to inform you of a reality. Humanity will defend itself, with your help or without it. We'd prefer to work alongside the galactic community as equals, contributing to mutual defense. But we won't wait for permission to survive." The Thex representative burbled through its translator. "Some might see this as aggressive. A young species rapidly militarizing. Then they'd be fools," Admiral Cortez cut in. "Every weapon you've seen today is defensive in nature. Kinetic weapons, mines, area denial systems, tactical coordination, these are tools for protecting what's ours, not conquering what's yours. Humanity has no interest in galactic conquest. We barely have enough resources to defend our own territory. But you now have the capability to threaten." "Everyone has the capability to threaten everyone else," Chen interrupted. "That's been true since the first species developed interstellar travel. The question isn't capability, it's intent. Judge us by our actions, not your assumptions about young species." The observation deck fell into contemplative silence. Finally, the Vorash ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with light, a sign of deep thought among its people. "I must admit," it said slowly, "that I underestimated your species. We all did. The Council believed we were protecting you from premature militarization. Instead, we were, how do humans say it, poking the bear?" "Close enough," Chen said with a slight smile. "Your weapons are crude by our standards," the Vorash continued, "but they are undeniably effective. And your development methodology, focusing on achievable goals rather than distant ideals, shows a pragmatism we rarely see in young species. Most try to copy us and fail. You built your own path." The Cuthran leaned forward, its neural interfaces flickering. "There is a saying among military scholars, the perfect weapon is the one you have when you need it. Your weapons may not be perfect, Ambassador, but they exist. They work, and you developed them in time to matter. That is worth more than theoretical superweapons that take millennia to build." Chen felt tension she'd been carrying for 18 months begin to ease. Does this mean The Council will need to reassess humanity's classification, the Secretary said. You've demonstrated capabilities beyond a Category 3 civilization. The question is how far beyond. It paused, the equivalent of a smile in its alien features. I suspect we will have interesting debates on this topic. In the meantime, the Vorash added, perhaps we should discuss technology sharing. Not charity, I believe your pride would refuse that. But there are materials, manufacturing techniques, and scientific principles that could benefit both our species. You've proven you can innovate. Imagine what you could accomplish with access to galactic databases. That's generous, Chen said carefully. It's practical, the Cathran corrected. The Devourers are advancing. Pirate syndicates grow bolder. The galaxy needs every defender it can get. A humanity with effective weapons is more useful to galactic security than a humanity waiting 3 centuries for permission. Besides, it added with what might have been amusement, your distributed combat network has applications we never considered. Perhaps we could learn from you. Admiral Cortez and Dr. Volkova exchanged glances. This was beyond what they'd hoped for. Chen maintained her diplomatic composure, but inside she was celebrating. We would welcome such cooperation, Chen said formally. Though I should warn you, humanity has a tendency to take your carefully developed techniques and use them in ways you never intended. We're counting on it, the Vorash replied. The galaxy has been stagnant for too long. We perfect our approaches over millennia, yes, but perfection often leads to inflexibility. Your species brings chaos, productive chaos. The military theorists among us find it fascinating. Scene, Earth, United Nations headquarters, 2 weeks later. The celebration in New York was subdued but heartfelt. The Security Council had declared the day a planetary holiday, Defiance Day, commemorating humanity's refusal to accept imposed limitations. Ambassador Chen stood before the General Assembly, giving her final report on Project Defiance. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation, their faces showing pride, relief, and exhaustion in equal measure. The Galactic Council has officially upgraded humanity to Category 4 status, Chen announced. We've been granted access to Tier 2 scientific databases, limited technology sharing agreements, and a seat on the Defense Coordination Committee. More importantly, we've been recognized as capable of independent defense. Applause filled the chamber. Secretary General Okonkwo let it continue for a full minute before calling for order. Ambassador, what does this mean practically? It means human colonies will receive better support from the Defense Force. It means our ships can travel through core sector space without excessive security protocols. It means we're no longer seen as children playing with fusion reactors. Chen paused. But most importantly, it means we've proven something fundamental. Humanity doesn't need to follow the established path. We can forge our own way. Dr. Volkova, sitting in the audience, smiled. She'd spent 20 months barely sleeping, driving her teams to achieve the impossible. Now watching Chen receive recognition for their collective work, she felt it had been worth every sleepless night. Beside her, Dr. Nakamura whispered, "Do you think they really respect us now? Some do, some never will. But that doesn't matter." Volkova gestured to the screen showing Earth from orbit, where human defense platforms now bristled with their new weapons. We don't need their respect. We have their attention. And we've shown the galaxy that writing us off is a mistake. Scene, DARPA Nevada facility. 1 month later. The Project Defiance team had mostly dispersed, returning to their home institutions or taking well-deserved vacations. But a core group remained at the Nevada facility, already working on the next generation of systems. Dr. Volkova walked through the labs, checking on progress. The kinetic hammers were being refined. Version 2.0 would have 30% better targeting accuracy. The exotic matter synthesis process was being streamlined. And in the back lab, a team was already working on something new. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to a strange device on the test bench. Young Dr. Tanaka looked up, grinning. "Weapon 11. We're calling it the temporal anchor. It's theoretical right now, but if we can make it work..." "I thought we were done at 10, Volkova said. "The galaxy said no gun can break them. We proved that wrong. But why stop at 10? Tanaka's enthusiasm was infectious. "The galaxy develops weapons over thousands of years, perfecting each one. We develop weapons in months, iterating rapidly. That's our advantage, not perfection, but innovation speed. By the time they've analyzed our current weapons, we'll have new ones they've never seen." Volkova considered this. You know, the council is going to be annoyed. Probably. But they'll also be impressed. Besides, we're not developing these weapons to threaten anyone. We're developing them because humanity's enemies won't stop innovating either. The Devourers adapt. Pirates develop new tactics. We need to stay ahead. Just try not to accidentally break causality or something, Volkova said dryly. We've had enough excitement for 1 decade. Scene: Galactic Council Chamber, 3 months later. The emergency session was called by the Vorash, who stood at the central podium looking as agitated as a crystalline being could appear. We have intelligence that humanity has developed 3 additional weapon systems beyond the 10 they demonstrated, including something involving temporal mechanics that our analysts find disturbing. Ambassador Chen, present via holographic link, looked innocent. We mentioned we tend to iterate rapidly. Was that not clear? You said you developed 10 weapons, the Cathran said. We developed 10 weapons in 18 months for the demonstration. We didn't say we'd stop developing weapons afterward. That would be strategically foolish. Chen's expression was carefully neutral. Is there a problem? The council members exchanged glances. Finally, the Eldari secretary spoke. Ambassador Chen, most species develop weapons over centuries, refining them to perfection before deployment. Your species seems to develop new weapons faster than we can analyze the old ones. This is unusual? This is human, Chen corrected. We iterate. We improve. We innovate. You've had 15,000 years to perfect your approach. We've had 200 years in space, and we're not about to waste time perfecting 1 weapon when we could be developing 10 more. This could be seen as an arms race. The Thex warned. Only if you're racing. We're not competing with you. We're defending ourselves against threats that don't wait for us to perfect our technology. The Devourers don't pause their advance because we need another decade of weapons testing. Chen leaned forward. The galaxy can join our innovation cycle, learn from our rapid development, maybe even contribute. Or you can watch from the sidelines and complain about how fast we're moving. Your choice. The Vorash's crystalline form pulsed with light. You are a deeply frustrating species, Ambassador Chen. Thank you. We try. That wasn't a compliment. I'm choosing to take it as one anyway. Chen smiled. Honored representatives, humanity isn't your enemy. We're your ally, an ally who happens to develop weapons at a pace that makes you uncomfortable. But consider this. In 3 months, we've developed 3 new systems. In 6 months, we'll probably have 6 more. In a year, who knows? Now imagine if we shared our development process with allied species. Imagine if the galaxy adopted rapid innovation cycles instead of millennium-long development timelines. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You're suggesting, the Cathran said slowly, that other species adopt your methodology? I'm suggesting that the galaxy has been doing things one way for so long that you've forgotten there are other approaches. Your way works, it produces incredible weapons over vast timescales. But our way produces adequate weapons on timescales that matter for current threats. Both approaches have merit. Chen gestured expansively. Why not combine them? Your scientific depth with our innovation speed. Your resources with our creativity. Your experience with our willingness to try crazy ideas. The Eldari secretary regarded her for a long moment. You're either brilliant or insane, Ambassador. Can I be both? That's what concerns us, the Vorash muttered. But Chen noticed something in the representative's expressions, not just frustration, but interest, curiosity, maybe even a hint of excitement. The galaxy had been stable for so long that innovation had slowed to a crawl. Humanity was offering something different. Chaos, yes, but productive chaos. The kind that led to breakthroughs instead of stagnation. I propose, Chen said carefully, a joint research initiative. Human scientists work alongside galactic researchers. We share our rapid development techniques. You share your deep scientific understanding. We see what happens when your perfection meets our speed. And if we refuse, the Cathran asked, then we continue developing weapons on our own, and you continue being surprised every few months when we unveil something new. Your choice, Chen shrugged. But I think cooperation would be more productive for everyone. The representatives conferred among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of light, sound, and pheromones that the translation system struggled to interpret. Finally, the Vorash spoke. The Council will consider your proposal. But understand, Ambassador, if we agree to this, there will be oversight, restrictions, ethical guidelines. Of course, we're not asking for a blank check to develop doomsday weapons. We're asking for cooperation and mutual defense. Chen's voice turned serious. The Devourers are coming. The pirates are getting bolder. The galaxy faces real threats. We can face them separately, moving at our different paces, or we can face them together, combining our strengths. I know which approach I'd prefer. The Cathron's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You know, when you first came before this council 2 years ago, we thought you were simply an ambitious young species, asking for technology you couldn't handle. We were prepared to dismiss you. Now, it gestured to the holographic displays showing humanity's weapons. Now we realize you were asking for help you didn't actually need. You were being polite. We were hoping you'd share. When you didn't, we improvised. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Humanity has a long history of being told something is impossible, attempting it anyway, and succeeding out of sheer stubborn refusal to accept limitations. The galaxy just gave us a new challenge. We responded the way we always do. By proving everyone wrong, the Eldari secretary said, something like amusement in its ancient voice. Exactly. Seen Earth Orbit, EDF Command Station, 5 years later. Admiral Cortez, now Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces, stood in the observation deck of humanity's first orbital fortress. Through the viewport, he could see the assembled fleet, 300 ships, all equipped with the 10 original weapons plus 17 new systems developed in the years since Project Defiance. Beside him stood Ambassador Chen, now serving as humanity's permanent representative to the Galactic Defense Council. Together, they watched the joint training exercise, human ships working alongside Vorash cruisers, Cathron destroyers, and vessels from a dozen other species. Never thought I'd see the day, Cortez said quietly. 5 years ago, they wouldn't share technology. Now we're running joint exercises, sharing tactical data, developing weapons together. People adapt when circumstances force them to, Chen replied. The Devourer incursion into the Kepler sector last year scared everyone. When 1 billion lives are at stake, ideological differences about development speed suddenly seem less important. She pulled up a holographic display showing casualty figures. The battle was brutal, but human weapons made a difference. The ghost mines disabled 3 Devourer dreadnoughts. The swarm torpedoes broke their formation. And the DCN coordinated fleet actions showed the other species what synchronized warfare looks like. We took heavy losses, but we held the line. And earned their respect, Cortez added. Some of it. Some species still think we're reckless. The Eldari call us the Chaos species. But even they admit our rapid innovation has value. 3 new weapons, in the last year alone, and 2 of them came from joint research initiatives with galactic partners. Cortez smiled. I heard the Vorash adopted our rapid prototyping methodology. They're developing weapons in decades now instead of millennia. The galaxy is changing. Slowly, but it's changing. Humanity forced that change by refusing to accept the status quo. Chen watched the ships maneuver through combat drills. We're not the strongest military power. We're not even in the top 10. But we're the ones pushing innovation, forcing everyone else to keep up. That's our role now. The disruptors, Cortez mused. The innovators, Chen corrected. There's a difference. We're not disrupting for its own sake. We're innovating because threats don't wait for perfection. The galaxy is learning that lesson. On the display, the training exercise reached its climax. Human ships, working in perfect coordination with their alien counterparts, executed a complex maneuver that would have been impossible 5 years ago. The fleet moved as one entity, not just human ships sharing tactical data, but humans, Vorash, Cathran, and others all linked through an upgraded version of the DCN. They're calling it the Galactic Combat Network now, Cortez noted. Based on our design but expanded. Thousands of ships, all coordinated in real time. Humanity's greatest contribution to galactic defense, Chen said proudly. Not any single weapon, but the philosophy behind them. Cooperate, adapt, innovate, and never accept that something is impossible just because it's hard. Scene, DARPA Nevada facility, present day. Dr. Volkova was older now, her hair fully gray, but her eyes still burned with the same intensity. She stood before a new generation of scientists and engineers, giving them the same speech she'd given 5 years ago. You've all read about Project Defiance, how we developed 10 weapons in 18 months, how we proved the galaxy wrong about humanity's capabilities. She gestured to the historical displays on the walls. But here's what the history books don't tell you. We didn't succeed because we were smarter than the galaxy. We succeeded because we were desperate, stubborn, and willing to try approaches others had dismissed as impractical. The young scientists listened intently. The galaxy develops perfect weapons over thousands of years. We develop adequate weapons in months. Neither approach is better, they're different. The galaxy's way produces incredible results given enough time. Our way produces functional results when time is the one resource we don't have. Volkova pulled up schematics of current projects. Today I'm asking you to continue that tradition. We have new threats, new challenges, new impossible problems to solve. The galaxy will tell you these problems require centuries of research. I'm telling you we need solutions in months. A young engineer raised her hand. Dr. Volkova, isn't that unrealistic? Some problems genuinely require time. Some do. But you won't know which ones until you try. And trying the impossible is humanity's specialty. Volkova smiled. 5 years ago, the galaxy said no gun could break their military supremacy. We built 10 that worked. Then we built 17 more. Now we're working on the next generation weapons that don't exist even in galactic databases, because we're inventing entirely new approaches to warfare. She gestured to the assembled team. You're not here to copy the galaxy. You're here to show them what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations. You're here to prove that humanity's greatest weapon isn't any gun or bomb, it's our unwillingness to quit, even when the universe tells us we should. The young scientists nodded, determination settling over their features. They understood now. They weren't just developing weapons. They were continuing a tradition. The human tradition of achieving the impossible through sheer bloody-minded refusal to accept failure. Scene Galactic Council Chamber, final scene. The emergency session was called by the Kthron, but this time the tone was different. Not alarm, but excitement. Humanity has developed something unprecedented, the Kthron announced. They're calling it the Unity Field. It's not a weapon, it's a defensive system that can protect entire fleets from singularity weapons. The physics shouldn't work according to our models, but it does. We've tested it. It's real. The Vorash's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. How is this possible? Singularity weapons are considered the ultimate offensive system. There's no defense. There was no defense, Ambassador Chen corrected, appearing on the central display. We found one. It required rethinking fundamental assumptions about space-time manipulation. But the solution was elegant once we stopped trying to block the singularity and started trying to redirect it. You're saying, the Eldari secretary spoke slowly, that humanity has invalidated 5,000 years of weapons development in a single innovation? Not invalidated. Evolved. Your singularity weapons still work, they're just not unstoppable anymore. This is good news for everyone except the Devourers, who rely heavily on singularity strikes. Chen's smile was sharp. We've already begun sharing the Unity Field specifications with allied species. Installation begins next month. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, the Vorash spoke, and its voice carried something new. Respect, genuine and unqualified. Ambassador Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must say, humanity has exceeded every expectation. You were right. We underestimated you. Not just your weapons, but your entire approach to problem solving. The galaxy owes you a debt. The galaxy owes us partnership, Chen corrected. We didn't develop the Unity Field alone. Vorash scientists provided the theoretical framework. Kthron engineers solved the power generation problems. Human innovators put it all together in a way none of us expected. That's the real lesson here, not that humanity is special, but that cooperation between different approaches yields better results than any single species working alone. The Kthron's mandibles clicked in agreement. Perhaps the real weapon humanity brought to the galaxy wasn't any gun at all. Oh? Chen raised an eyebrow. It was the idea that the old ways aren't the only ways, that innovation doesn't require millennia, that desperate young species might have insights ancient civilizations have forgotten. The Cathron leaned back. You've made the galaxy uncomfortable, Ambassador, but you've also made us better. Chen felt pride swell in her chest, not just for humanity, but for what they'd accomplished together. Then I'd say our job here is done. Well, until the next impossible problem comes along. There's always another impossible problem, the Vorash said, and now its tone was almost affectionate. We're counting on humanity to tackle them with your usual disregard for conventional wisdom. We'll do our best to disappoint anyone expecting us to act sensibly, Chen promised. As the session ended and the holographic connection terminated, Chen sat alone in her office on Earth, looking up at the stars. 5 years ago, the galaxy had said no gun could break their supremacy. Humanity had proven them wrong not once, but dozens of times. Not because humans were better, but because humans refused to accept that anything was truly impossible. And somewhere out there, in labs and research stations across human space, the next generation of engineers and scientists were already working on the next impossible breakthrough, because that's what humanity did. That's what humanity would always do. The galaxy had learned to never underestimate humans. Humanity had learned that the universe's limits were suggestions, not laws. And together they were building a future where both lessons would matter. Epilogue. A message from Admiral Cortez to the EDF Academy. Graduating class recording date. 10 years after Project Defiance. Cadets, you're entering service at an interesting time. When I joined the Earth Defense Forces 30 years ago, we were barely relevant on the galactic stage. We had primitive weapons, outdated technology, and everyone, including ourselves, wondered if humanity could survive in the larger cosmos. Today, human weapons are studied in military academies across 40 star systems. Our tactical innovations are standard doctrine for the Galactic Defense Force. And when the Council faces a problem they can't solve, they call us first. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because one generation of humans refused to accept limitations. They were told that something was impossible, and they responded with 2 words that define our species. Watch us. You're inheriting that legacy. The weapons in your arsenal, the kinetic hammers, the ghost mines, the unity fields, these exist because scientists and engineers decided that impossible was a challenge, not a verdict. As you go forward, remember this: humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons. It was our refusal to quit, our willingness to try absurd ideas, our tendency to look at universal laws and ask, but what if we bent them a little? The galaxy called us chaos. They called us reckless. They called us impossible. They were right on all counts. And that's exactly why we succeeded. So go out there, cadets. Defend humanity. Protect our allies. And when someone tells you something can't be done, remember the scientists who were told no gun could break the galaxy's supremacy and built 10 that worked anyway. Stay impossible. Stay human. And above all, never stop innovating. Admiral James Cortez, Supreme Commander, Earth Defense Forces. End of transmission.